welcome back to Gunners Rust Podcast, where we are positively Patreon, and that we are. And here on a Patreon, we do things like this every single week as far as previews. We also do reviews, and with the games coming every 3 days throughout the season, that's the reason to get onto the Patreon. So it's a little preview of the Patreon. We're doing a preview of Arsenal v Coventry to start the 26-27 Premier League season at the Emirates Stadium tomorrow night. But with that as well, I'm going to do some of my Arsenal predictions as well at the end. I did all my Premier League predictions on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music and YouTube on Wednesday, but I didn't do the individual Arsenal ones. So today at the end, I will do my quick kind of Player of the Year, Signing of the Year, Achievement of the Year, where we're going to finish Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Champions League, Premier League, top goal scorer, top assists, things like that. And again, I'll go through all that at the end of the season and see where I was at and how off I was or how right I was. But a lot of it kind of writes itself, I think, depending on how we feel about the season. But I think most of us feel quite, I don't want to use the word confident, but maybe expectant, maybe, of doing well. I don't think anyone's sitting here thinking we're going to win a treble or a double or anything like that. But I think we feel that the league is shaped up in a way in which not it's going to be a run, like an easy run, or like a tap-in. I think it is going to be difficult. But I think, if ever, when you've just won one, the way in which everyone's in transition, things like that, I genuinely believe there's a chance for us to go back-to-back. So for me, that is the main... that's the one I would go for the most, personally. I don't think... a lot of people are saying now we've won the Premier League, win the Champions League. But I think the Champions League is a knockout competition. If you have a good squad or you just get the right run of fixtures or the bracket sits in a certain way, you can win that. The Premier League is very difficult to win over 38 games, and we've been so close for 3 years running, then to win it on the fourth, I think it'd be silly to drop off on that to try and win some other things that are a little bit of a lottery. Obviously, the best teams usually win it, like PSG, but it's a bit of a lottery when you look at the FA Cup winners and Carabao Cup winners. I know Man City did last year because they had a good squad, and they kind of dropped in the league a tiny bit. They dropped out of the Champions League. Sometimes certain things make you better in other things, if that makes sense. So I think a bit of a detriment to us last year was that we did go to the Carabao Cup final with a two-legged semi-final plus the quarterfinals of the FA Cup plus to the last day of the Premier League, essentially. I think that affected the way in which we performed in the Champions League. But I think it also was the reason we slowed down in the Premier League was because we're in the Champions League still, in the Carabao Cup. So it all kind of is... It all works together, and I think that's why it's so difficult to win a quadruple. No one's done it in England. But that's why trebles are so hard, things like that. But I think we're very well suited with our squad as well to have domestic runs as well as the Premier League. And I don't see why not the Champions League, but it's just whether one of them usually has to drop out. And this year, for example, is FA Cup in the quarterfinals. The other three went strong. But I just think the Premier League is the one. If you said right now one trophy next year, what would it be? It'd be the Premier League for me, because rarely do all the other teams sit in transition and you don't. And you've also just come off of winning it. And you've also just come off of 4 years of being in the top two. That kind of run doesn't happen often. Whereas teams do come sixth and win the Champions League. That has happened. So for me, I would 100% pick the Premier League. And that's why getting off to a good start is important, because when you do look at the fixtures before the extended international break, there's some trip-ups. There's some definite trip-ups, and we don't know. This is the interesting part about a fixture list, is certain teams that look difficult on paper. Sunderland away, for example. Last year, we might have looked at it and said it'll be difficult. It's up north, it's away, but promoted team, we should be right. What we learned throughout the season was that's a very difficult place to win at. We don't know whether Coventry away, I don't think this necessarily is one. Coventry aren't going to get all their points away from home, so I don't think that is like a hidden one. But, Villa away or Chelsea away or Sunderland away, we don't know until two thirds or three quarters into the season whether in retrospect they were easy or hard or indifferent. So when you do look at a fixture list, you naturally just base it completely off of what you saw last year. And as we know, the year before, you wouldn't have guessed Sunderland would be amazing. Leeds away would be tough. It wasn't for us, but it was for most. You wouldn't expect certain things to happen that did. Brentford, we thought, could be relegation fodder. They were very difficult to play against, home and away. So on paper, you look at it and go, oh, that's a nice week there. And it wasn't. And then a week where you thought, oh, that's going to be so difficult. For example, Tottenham. but they were in a relegation battle. Um, and then also timings of them all. We don't know where we're going to be when we play them as far as fitness or time in the season, the pressure, fixtures as far as Champions League. There's so many things that factor in. For example, West Ham away last year, they got relegated. You'd think we should be able to get that result. That was such a difficult result because it was in the run and we knew it was our hardest game left. And they were fighting for survival. If we played them in October, we'd probably win that 3-4-0. So it's all kind of relative to the time. So, but as it stands, I think the first six do look slightly difficult in a traditional sense. So maybe a couple in there we don't know yet, and we might not know until the end of the season. But Coventry at the start, I think it's a very nice start. We started with Man United away last year, a very difficult start. We usually have Chelsea and City and Liverpool in the first 2-3 games. It's been very unkind to us in the last kind of 4 or 5 years, especially the first game. On this one, I feel quite good that, not saying this is a guaranteed win, but it's a promoted team at home on a Friday night under lights at your ground, having just won the league and just won the Community Shield. I think it's not a layup, but it's certainly the nicest of anyone else's fixtures, I would have thought. I will look at our first. I won't look at our first. I'll look at the Premier League, the fixtures, and I'll say on paper, our game's probably the best matchup for us. Man United away at Hull could be a good matchup. We don't know yet. Again, these are the ones that you just don't know. Ipswich and Sunderland. We don't know what Ipswich do at home. Could they be a team that get all their points at home like Sunderland did? Everton Palace, Forest Leeds, Brentford versus Spurs. Again, are Brentford in a relegation mode or are they going to be in a Europe chasing mode? We don't know. City at home to Bournemouth, Brighton Villa, Newcastle Liverpool, Fulham Chelsea. Like Newcastle's a perfect example. St James's Park, Sunday 4:30. All the cameras are on. That could be really problematic, but they don't have Tonali, they don't have Bruno, they don't have Isaac, they don't have Gordon. They don't have these players that make St James's Park very difficult. They've lost them, and they haven't been able to replace them. So that could easily be a 4-0 win to Liverpool. And at the end of the season, we might look back and go, that's actually a really good result because Newcastle got together and came 8th. So we similar to last year, if you remember, we lost at Anfield 1-0 and we thought, well, they're going to probably win the league, so that wasn't the worst result. We didn't realise they were going to come where they did and we were going to win the league. But at that time, coming off of them winning the league and then spending $500 million, we expected that was probably a good result to only lose by 1 and it was a set piece. But come the end of the season, we were thinking, God, that was points we probably should have gained because everyone seemed to win a game at Anfield last year. So it's all so relative. It's so hard to predict, and that's why doing the Premier League predictions this week is so hard. But we are starting with Coventry. I do think, looking at it on paper, that we've got the nicest starting game. I don't think we necessarily have the nice starting fixtures because after Coventry, we have Aston Villa away on the Monday night. So we've got an 8-day rest, which is good. And then we've got a 6-day rest and we're home to Chelsea, then away to Sunderland, away to Brighton, home to Leeds. And I think Brighton is the first 5 games before there's an international. Then there's a big old gap. And then, is there another international? There is, I think. There is, There's one in mid-November as well, which is very annoying. But either way, we got 5 games. So we kind of, point-wise, if we look at this as the first block, Coventry at home, Villa away, Chelsea at home, Sunderland away, Brighton away. That is very difficult. Our 2 home games are Coventry and Chelsea, but our away games are Sunderland, Brighton and Villa, places we did not do great. We beat Brighton away last year 1-0, but it was controversial. We drew with Sunderland 2-2, but we found it very difficult, and then we lost to Villa. At home to Chelsea, we actually did a number of them, didn't we? We beat them in all competitions last year, but it was always difficult, but that was a different team. We don't know what this Chelsea team is. Are they title contenders? Are they not? Coventry is the only one. Looking at it, the only ones that spring out as a 3-pointer is the Coventry game, and I think that's what it's so important we do, because if we don't, we're fighting a little bit of a uphill battle, because if we get a win at Villa Park, and I know they've lost a lot of players, it's similar to Newcastle where we don't know where we're at, that would be great. Home to Chelsea, it could be not a title decider, but it could be the title race, we don't know. a draw there potentially. So 7 points. Sunderland away, I think, with them having Europe, and I know this is a horrible time to play them because they're not even caught up in every 3 days. Whereas if we got to play them in maybe November, December, they might be three days removed from a European Cup night, and they're absolutely shattered, and they've got rotated squad, all that kind of stuff. Whereas instead we're getting them at the Stadium of Light at the worst case possible because a lot of their players are fully fit. There'll be 4 games in and no playing every 3 days. So very interesting there. And then Brighton away is always difficult. I think Brighton will be another force again this year with Hertzler's new hair. So the only guarantee is 3 there, maybe 3 against Villa. I think a Chelsea and Sunderland draw. Brighton, I could only see 3 draws and 2 wins, if not a loss and 3 wins. But I think around the 12 points from 15, I think we'd all say that's a heck of a start. Because then we go to internationals, and when we come back from that, Leeds at home, Forest away, Everton at home, Liverpool away, Hull at home, then another international break. So there's another 5 block. But I do think that's a more fruitful block, that I think maybe there's 4 wins out of 5 potentially. So this first block I think is really important to kind of set the tone. But first of all, we have to just do the Coventry game. That is all we can do, is play the game that's in front of us, and that is the Coventry game. It's going to be interesting. Friday night, I do have a little reminiscence of the last Friday night game at the start of the season, was that Brentford game that they danced after the game, the pundits, and they loved it. Long throws going directly in. I'm thinking Ramsey. Was it Ramsdale or Leno? I think it might have been Leno. Swatting at a ball. Ben White being chastised for being £50 million and he's not good enough. And he's now a Premier League winner. There was a lot going on that night. If you remember as well, we had a massive illness. There was, I believe, Balogun started that game up front. A lot of players started that game that probably shouldn't have. So it's not a good memory. And I'm hoping this one will be better. Our injury list is Timber and Saliba. That is all. There's obviously incomings and outgoings. I think we have to get Konza done by midday today, which might get done. It looks like the deal is done, but medical's being done. They have to get paperwork done by midday if they want him in the squad. I don't think they necessarily have to rush him for that one. Ironically, he'll be not rushed, but he'll be available for the Villa game. We're just taking people's captains at this point. Coventry have Mason, Clark, Onyeka, and Rudoni. 2 midfielders and a forward. I don't honestly know much about Coventry. So, I don't know how important that is, but looking at it, I just think they're a team that last year stormed the Championship. They scored a lot of goals. They were also caught up in a lot of shootouts. I don't think they have the personnel to do the deepest low block that is unbelievable. I think they'll be dangerous. I think they'll be dangerous on counters. I think they'll attempt like maybe a mid to low block. But I think they will be dangerous. If we play like we did against City, that kind of ruthlessness, the vertical midfield of Lewis Skelly, Bruno, / if it's Rice, and Odegaard, I think if they're playing like they did against City, I don't think there's much hope for Coventry, honestly. But with Arsenal, we just don't know what we're getting. Because even though we won the league last year, some games you just thought, have they ever played together this lot? And then some games you just thought that, we're going to walk the league. So we're still a bit of an inconsistent team while being overall very consistent with the top 2 finishes for 4 years running. But the eye test was difficult last year. I think we all know that. And this game last year was the equivalent of teams like Wolves at home, where we had to rescue the win in the 94th minute. We had Burnley, where Havertz scores early and then we're under pressure right through to the last second. Again, that was in a run-in, so it might be different kind of pressures. I think the pressures of being the first team on might be there, but I think this feels a bit less pressure. I think if this was Newcastle away, or let's say the first game was Villa away and it was 4:30, I think a lot of eyeballs on that. We just bought Konza. There'd be a lot of conversation around it. Can they perform? Can they retain? Whereas I think with this one, people want to see Coventry, the way they set up, how they do it with Lampard, because we haven't seen him sit in a low block. Because when you've been in Championship that long, not that long, but under Lampard, that year where you're just that good, you're the offensive team. They're not used to being the non-offensive team. And I don't think you can maintain it because you will just get beaten by better players. So they will have to adapt. So I'm hoping we're playing them at a time before they adapt. If you remember Leeds last year, we beat them 5-0 and 4-0. by the end of the season they had adapted and they'd figured something out that made it very difficult to play against. I'm hoping we're playing him a good time. It'll be a learning lesson for them, I hope. As for like lineups and stuff, I think it picks itself a little bit. I think Raya in goal, even though he gave it the old back felt dodgy to his family after the Community Shield, but that might be an ongoing problem. I do not know. It does worry me why we've kept two kind of first, I'd say Premier League level first choice keepers as second and third keeper. Worries me that they know something we don't. The Raya could end up missing time, because why would you keep them? Why would Meslier come in and go, yeah, I'll be happy to be third and not in a matchday squad ever? You'd assume he's been told, well, Raya's got an injury and there's a chance that you two are going to be the sub and main keeper for periods of this season. I don't know. But, or maybe it is totally just everything that is in the Premier League, Raya will sit out of for the first 6 months. So he's only playing once every 6-7 days. I don't know. Doing the hand signal. Raya in goal. I think it will be Ben White and Calafiori, Mosquera and Gabriel. And the Konza signing is an interesting one because it's definitely going to, like Ezra Madueke stodged up when Airy and Dowman. This Konza one, there's no doubt about it, will stodge up Mosquera. I think sometimes we're a bit too literal with that, and we assume that injuries don't happen and multiple games a week don't happen, and fitness doesn't happen, because we just assume, oh, now he's there, that means Mosquera won't play. I can almost guarantee you within the second or third game, if Mosquera does drop out of that centre back role for Konza, he ends up playing right back because Timber's not back yet and Ben White needs a rest. So I don't think it will. I'm sure Mosquera will be disappointed with the season he had, that he's not going to be allowed 4 or 5 months for a Premier League season to become one of the better centre-backs in the league, because I genuinely think we might have a replacement long-term for a Saliba or someone if we ever get massive money. I don't want it to happen, but I wonder. And this will definitely stodge up his pathway, but I get why they're doing it, because, like I just said, give it a month, all of a sudden the availability is Hincapi, Gabriel, Mosquera, Konza and Ben White, and you've got 5 players to fill 4 roles every 3 days, and we're thinking, well, where's Saliba, where's Timber, where's Calafiori? Oh, they're all injured. All right, then we need to shuffle the deck, and these players need to play out of position, all that kind of stuff. So I get it, and I think it's ruthless. I think it's good in the sense that it only makes us stronger. The 100%, like, take away the fee, take away the age, take away pathways. It's making that core much stronger. 100%. There's no two ways about it. But we're not getting rid of anyone. We're just adding an England level, Premier League tested captain of Aston Villa to our group. And obviously he's very close friends with Rice and Eze and Saka, and I'm sure that's part of the whole thing to kind of keep that kind of family unit. But it only improves us. I really believe that. Then the midfield, I think we are, if Bruno is not injured, I think it will be Lewis Skelly, Bruno and Odegaard, same as the Carabao Cup. The Carabao Cup Community Shield. But I've got a feeling Bruno might not be fit, and I think he might not even make the squad. That's just an inkling I've got from that ice. Basically, once just off him coming off and having an ice pack. That could have been a dead leg, and he's absolutely fine. I don't know. But I think Lewis Skelly and Odegaard are definites, and I just don't know who the other one is. Whether it could be Rice, whether it's Zubamendi, whether it's Bruno. But I think those two are definites, and I'd like to see them both for sure because of their quality of game. I'd like to see Bruno Guimaraes and just let Rice slowly bed back in. Tzolis has got that left side down. It has to be his. I think it will be Havertz. And I think Saka will come in for Madueke. I think he's fit enough. You start him. He needs to have a good season. I think Odegaard and Saka must be seeing this season as they won the league last year, essentially without us. And we're their main guys. We need to make a point and go back to back, and it's because of us. So I think, similar to how we heard Rice was kind of itching to get back, I think Saka will be saying, no, I'm fit enough to start. I can do 50 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever it is. Let me do it, and then you can do what you want. But let me have the meat of these games, because I will score goals. And this is also a game where they could be looking at going, we could win 4 or 5-0. Who knows? That would be great. And I can just kind of start my season with, an assist or a goal or maybe 2 assists or whatever it is. And these players do think of stats, and they think of their XG and G&A per week, and all that kind of stuff. So I think they see it as an opportunity to, 1, get the win, but 2, if Solis or someone gets 2 assists or a goal and assist, he's seen as, do you know what? 37 more games. If I can just average something every other game, at the end of the season, everyone's going to be saying that I'm signing in the summer. So I do feel good of that team. It's so hard to make a subs bench because we're allowed 9. And then you got Kepa on the bench. So Mesli's not in the squad. Timber and Saliba don't make the squad. I think it's Hincapi. I assume Konza won't get done. So Hincapi is the only defender on the bench, potentially, which is mad. And then I guess it's weird because all our backup, like Lewis Skelly can drop back there, but he's also a left back. Hincapi's a left back. He's a left back. Our issues are all on the right. And this is why Konza has to be there, because if there's an injury to Ben White or Mosquera in that first half, we have no one that actually can play there other than Zubamendi or Declan Rice. So I get it. I do get it. But the bench, yeah, Kepa, Hincapi, Zubamendi, Rice, this is if Bruno starts, Eza, Dauman, Madueke, Gyökeres, Moreno. And I would leave Vieira, Nelson, obviously, Jesus, Martinelli, Waneri, Saliba, Meslier, Timber, all out of that squad. So 8 players miss out on the matchday squad. And that is, and I'd add Salmon in there because I think he's deserving of, also a left-sided centre-back, which is ironic. But it's 8. They need to move some people on. They definitely need to move people on. And you add Konza to that, that's 9. And that puts our squad at 31. We need that to be 26. So 5 people need to leave, especially if Konza's come in now, and people are still saying, let's go get Yildiz or Barcola. No, I actually think we won't actually buy a forward. I think it's going to be January. I think we'll go get someone in January. Maybe a Krupi, maybe someone like that. But either way, as for the game, I predict 3-0. I'm hoping it's a really fun night where we go, do you know what, we're in this. Because I think the tougher tests are ahead. And I really think dropping anything but 3 points here could become problematic in the next 4 games before that international break, because not going to be easy to come by. There's no easy, and I don't think there's easy 3 points in the league, but this is as easy as it gets. This or Hull, Ipswich at home, maybe Crystal Palace at home this season. But again, this is in 6 months. That comment I just made might be mad because those 4 teams might be flourishing, and it might be 3 others that are the easy games, and maybe one of them's Brighton away. Maybe that is they can't win at home. Who knows? But the next 4 do look like the real tests, so it'll be interesting. But to finish this episode, I just want to do my Arsenal predictions to follow up on my Premier League predictions on Wednesday. So I've got it written down in front of me. I've got Player of the Year. We've got. It was a toss-up, and there's a knock-on effect here. I was going to say Odegaard or Bruno Guimaraes. I'm going to go Odegaard. I think he's due this season. He looks happy, he looks strong, he looks fit, he looks kind of in his moment, maybe a bit of confidence. If he stays fit, I think he'll be him. I think he'll be our player of the season. He might even be the Premier League player of the season if he stays fit. So I'm going to go Odegaard. Signing of the season, you'd now think, well, if you were struggling with Odegaard, Bruno, you're going to say Bruno. I'm going to say Solis because I just really like him. I liked him from the jump. I like his stats. I like what it looks like on paper. I like now what it looks like physically. The Sanchez comparison's thrown my brain. But I just think he's going to be good. I think he is going to translate to the league. I think he just looks like we've uncovered the gem. But the beauty of recording these is, could we be all cussing him out by Christmas going, why have we done this? The achievement of the year, I've gone with Premier League back-to-back. I think the 2 things that people will be happy with are winning the Champions League or going back-to-back. I think if we don't win the Champions League, I don't think there'll be an uproar. If we don't go back-to-back, I think there will. So I think we almost have to go back-to-back, mainly because of the landscape. I think if the landscape was still Pep, they had brought in 6 more players, and Liverpool had built their squad, and Klopp had come back, or even Iraola, whatever it is, I think people would be like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm glad we got one done. I think the way it's set up, it's almost sitting there going, go on in Arsenal, try and go back-to-back. Because we might not ever get a chance that looks like this ever again to go back-to-back. Because you've got to win the first one, and then you've got to have a nice layup of a season as far as transition. But time will tell because it's a very difficult season. But achievement of the year, I'm going to go Premier League back-to-back. Carabao Cup, I've gone quarters. This is more wishful thinking because if we're not going to go to that final, I do not want that 2-legged semi. I think the Carabao is the one that if we go out in the first time we play, No one needs, because last year I remember it was all like we have to go for the quadruple, which was just crazy. I think we need to get out one of them early, and it's not the other three, 100%. So I'm going to go Carabao Cup quarters. FA Cup, I've gone final. I think it's our return to the FA Cup. We like to win this every now and then. The most winningest team in the FA Cup, I think we'll go back. Don't know if we'll win it, but either way, we'll win the cup final. Champions League, I'm going to go semi because we got semi, a quarter, a semi, a final. I think we're going to get semi. I just think it's too much in one season to do it all. I do think we're suited for it as far as the squad. I think the squad, I just said how big the squad is and how talented that squad is. It can do it. I just think other leagues make it better for teams, and we do not. We'll be playing every 2 days at that point when we're having to beat Real Madrid, for example, in a quarter. Whereas in France, they'll be giving PSG 2 weeks off to prepare for it, for example. I just don't think it's easy to compete on that. And they've also a team that do have a gigantic squad, a very good squad. We learned in the final last year, most of their top players have played a third of the minutes that Mosquera had last year. It's just crazy. So they get fit at the right time. We kind of run hot and then fizzle and just get things over the line. So I think because of that, we're going to come to the semis. Premier League, I'm going to go first. I really want to go back to back. Do I think it will happen? I have no clue. Do I want it to happen? 100%. Top goal scorer, this is a tough one, and top assist. Top assist, won't be surprised, but it's between Odegaard and Solis. I'm going to go Solis. He just seems like a bit of a goals and assist monster as far as like what Saka was. We haven't seen Saka in a bit kind of have a string of games, but some people, I talked about before, some people like Doku look unreal in the eye. And then you look at the season and you go, oh, he's got 15 goals over the last 3.5 seasons. And you're thinking, what? And you're like, and he's got 20 assists over 3.5 seasons. You're like, so he gets like 4 a year or something like that. You're like, yeah. Whereas there's people like Saka that everyone go, oh, I don't rate him. But they'd be like, oh, he got 15 assists and 10 goals last year. When did that happen? Salah was the ultimate of this. I think sometimes on the eye, people are like, he's not in the game, but he gets a goal and assist. And at the end of the season, you go, when did he get 30 goals and 20 assists? Because that's bad. And I think Solis, I don't think he has that in him, but I think he's got a bit of that kind of, he's not the flairest player, but I think he'll just kind of churn away at assists and a couple goals here and there. And I think he'll kind of make his way. And also he takes set pieces, so him, Rice and Saka have the best ability to take the assist thing. And I just think Solis might be a mainstay on that left side if we don't replace. So he could be taking a lot of set pieces. Top scorer, I'm going to go Havertz. I think, again, like Odegaard and Saka, I think he needs a good year. I think it's pretty evident that Arteta loves him and he will play him over Gyökeres. I love Gyökeres, but I really do love the concept of Gyökeres getting 30 minutes every game. Not every game, you know, the season's long. You can't just play the same 11 all season and have the same subs at the same times. This is, you know, we could be in a world where Gyökeres is the only fit forward for 6 months like last year. But if Havertz stays fit, I think he'll play a majority of games and I think he'll get the goals. I think the amount of goals he'll get is in the league, I reckon around 16 again, around the Gyökeres kind of 14 mark. I think you get, let's say 15. In all comps, 20 odd. And I think Gyökeres will be not far behind him. I think he'll pick off some of the smaller teams. Like this Coventry game, he played at Coventry. I think him coming on against tired legs, and if we're 2-3-0 up, that could be a problem. You know, that could be an issue for Coventry because he's a battering ram, and I really, really like him at the club. But they're my Arsenal predictions. I'll put them up on the desk to the right with the Premier League predictions. They're on top of the transfer predictions that we'll go through in a couple of weeks. But that has been a preview. If you're new to this is a little exclusive of what we do on the Patreon. These happen every week for every game. New player transfer episodes, all sorts. And it's about £6 a month. So sign up. You also get put in a raffle every month, so you have a chance to win a graded Arsenal card. We don't have many patrons at all. So if you do it now, you might be very likely to win an Arsenal graded card. So you might 10x your payment for that month if you win it. So jump on in. It helps the podcast. We want to grow this thing. And check out all our other sponsors like SeatGeek and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. Links are all below anyway. And we'll see you on Monday when I hope Ezri Konsa is an Arsenal player. And we've seen 90% of the matches because there'll be Monday Night Football. But hey, let's hope for an Arsenal start to the season with a big, big win. Bye-bye.